سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم. اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Lubb al-Lubab. We were talking about muraqabah. Of course, still we haven't talked about how to do muraqabah. Inshallah, this will come later in the book. But just a brief review of what stages are available for people who do muraqabah, self-monitoring or self-observation. The last point that we had was to be able to reach the point that we would experience tajarrud nafs. You can witness immateriality of your own soul, and you would be able to see the soul separate from body, or it can go even further and you can experience your soul beyond time and space, as if it has filled all over the world from east to the west. But this is the way we explain it, otherwise it's not geographical when we say from the east to the west. We mentioned the story of late Ayatollah Sayyid Ahmad Karbala'i, who was a student of Akhund Mullah Hussein Quliya Hamadani, a teacher of Ayatollah Qazi Tabataba'i, how he experienced Noor Isfahbudiyeh, the light of the soul, human soul, for himself. Now we want to continue. So the author says, after this stage, as a result of attention to muraqabah, then little by little it goes higher and higher and would reach the point that one can see, can witness the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before I talk about this and the next one, which is to see the names of Allah, Asma, a quick reminder, we had this in several places, in 40 hadith and other places. Here, what they mean by sifa, like ilm. Ilm is a sifa of Allah, is a quality of Allah, knowledge, power. And they mean by ism, alim, qadir, hayy. So something that can be applied to God, this is called name, alim. Ilm is the quality. So first, this salik, this wayfarer, reaches the point that would see as if all world is just one unit of knowledge. Everything is knowledge. Maybe sometime he would see everything is power, one unit of power, not separate and scattered and different pieces. No, one simple comprehensive power or knowledge or life, etc. But if he keeps going, then he would see everything as one alim, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything as one qadir, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is higher. So let me read some of the text and explain. He says, after passing this stage, Salik Sa'adatmand, the fortunate wayfarer, as a result of being concerned and dedicated to muraqabah, he would be able to see qualities of Allah, or even higher, names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a universal way. به نحو کلیه. So he says موفق می گردد که صفات باری تعالی را مشاهده نماید و یا اسماء ذات مقدسه او را به نحو کلیت دریابد. Would be able to observe, to witness qualities or names of his holy essence. چه بسا در این موقع سالک ناگهان متوجه می گردد که تمام موجودات جهان یک واحد علم است. It's very much possible that all of a sudden the wayfarer realizes that the whole world, all the beings are just one unit of knowledge, or just one unit of power. This is the stage of shuhud sifat, witnessing sifat, qualities of God. But after this, above this, is shuhud asma, and he would find در تمام عوالم عالم یکی است. He would find in all different realms and domains there is one alim, there is one qadir, one hay, one knowledgeable, one powerful, one living. And this is higher than the previous one. And he says this person is in a position that yusbihu wala yara qadiran wala aliman wala hayyan siballah ta'ala. The wayfarer would reach the point that he would yusbih. Yusbih means to begin your day, but it can also mean to reach the point. It can be in the sense of becoming. So he would reach the point that would not see any qadir, capable, any alim, any knowledgeable, any hayy, any living person other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if he sees thousands of people who have life, who have some knowledge, who have some power, but this would not make him see anything other than Allah. He would see Allah everywhere. Like maybe, what Amir al-Mu'minin said refers to, at least part of it can refer to this point, that ما رأيت شيئا إلا وقد رأيت الله قبله وبعده ومعه. I didn't see anything unless I saw Allah before, after, and with it. Here also says لأن السالك يصبح ولا يرى قادرا ولا عالما ولا حيا سوى الله تعالى. Other than Allah, he would not see anything else with power or knowledge or life. And what is amazing is that this experience, this kind of shuhud, normally or mostly happens at the time of recitation of the Quran. This is the power of the Quran, because Quran is nearest thing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you manage to recite the Quran with attention and presence of heart, then Quran may take you to a very high position. it can reach the point that the reciter of the Quran would feel that it's not him who is reciting. چه بسا خواننده قرآن در میابد که خواننده او نبوده کس دیگر بوده است. You know, when I am reciting Quran, I am hearing myself, my own voice. I am very conscious that it's me. But those who are in this stage would reach this kind of experience that they would be heedless about themselves, and it's as if they are hearing from غیب, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. و گاه می شود که ادراک می کند که مستمع نیز کس دیگر بوده که استماع می کند. So one level is that I would realize that I am reciting and I am myself listening. The higher is that I think I am hearing someone else reciting. It's not me, someone else is reciting. I am hearing that. Again, something higher than this is that the one who is reciting and the one who is listening are not me. I am witnessing that someone is reciting and someone is listening. It's not me. I am not doing anything. I am just a place for manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This reminds us of the hadith about Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. You must have heard this hadith that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam reciting his salat, he repeated إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ several times, and then he went unconscious. He fell down. And then when he was asked, he said, لا أزال أكررها حتى سمعت من قائلها. This is not in the book, but in other books, you know, this hadith is there. You can find it. لا أزال أكرر. I kept repeating إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين till I felt as if I am hearing to the one who said this. It's not me. So I disappeared and Allah appeared. حتى سمعت من قائلها. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين is a very important point in Salat. It's like a turning point in Salat, in my humble opinion. Although Salat from the beginning up to the end is very high and very elevated in position. But it seems that when we say Salat, and we say Allahu Akbar, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Malik Yawmuddin, we are just building up, and then we feel the presence of Allah, we feel that we are talking to Him, we say Iyyaka na'bud. This iltifat, as they call it in rhetorics, in Ilm al-Balagha, they say iltifat, from third party to the second party, from ghaib to mukhatab, is a sign that you feel you are in front of God now. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. And if you can repeat this, then you would feel that little by little it's someone else taking over. And therefore it's not surprising that in Salat of Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, we have 100 times Iyyaka na'bud wa Iyyaka nasta'in. This is to make it very permanent and established in us that we only ask Him for help and we only worship Him, but also puts us in a very close situation, very a strong encounter with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So چه بسا خواننده قرآن در می‌یابد که خواننده او نبوده. It's very common that the reciter of the Quran would realize that he was not reciting, and even it can reach the point that he would feel that I am not listening. Neither I am reciting nor I am listening. باید دانست که تلاوت قرآن را در حصول این امر تأثیر فراوانی است. It should be known that recitation of the Quran has great impact on this. And one of the recommendations here is that when you are doing Salatul Layl, recitation of the Quran is very important. And among chapters that you can choose for recitation of the Quran, according to this book, is those chapters which are azaim, which have sajdah ayah. There are 4 chapters of the Quran that have sajdah wajibah. They have obligatory sajdah. They are called azaim. They are so powerful and so, empowering that they are called azaim. Azaim al-subar. In Salat wajib, we cannot recite those chapters which have sajdah wajib. But in Salat mustahab, fatwa normally is, I don't know if there is exception, but it seems that it's a common fatwa that in Salat mustahab you can recite sajdah wajib. And the author says that this quick motion from recitation to sajdah, this can bring mystical experiences. He says, سزاوار است که سالک در حین اشتغال به نماز شب صور عزائم را تلاوت کند. It is recommended that the wayfarer, when doing Salatul Layl, recite chapters with sajda. Why? چه از حال قیام ناگهان برای خدا به سجده افتادن خالی از لطف نیست. Because to go quickly from a standing situation to prostration is beautiful. It's a sign of quickly forgetting yourself and trying to connect yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says, it has been empirically proved, به تجربه ثابت شده است. This is مجرب, means it's proved empirically, that recitation of Surat Sad in Salatul Wutaira, in the last nafila after Salat Isha, it's very good in Laylatul Jum'ah. So after your Salatul Isha in Wutaira, if you recite Surat Sad, he says this is been experienced, and the reason can be understood from a hadith about the merit of reciting Surat Sad. He doesn't mention more. I checked for the hadith for Fadilat, recitation of Surat Sad, and I think he refers to this hadith because this is about recitation of Surat Sad in Laylatul Jumu'ah, and it is also very powerful hadith. Although it is not only about reading in the nafilah. It's general, but in the nafilah, of course, becomes more important. Imam Baqir alayhi salam, according to hadith that Sheikh al-Saduq has mentioned in Thawabul A'mal. This is not in the book, but you can find it easily on internet, from Thawabul A'mal. Biharul Anwar also mentioned from Thawabul A'mal. Imam Baqir alayhi salam said, Man qara'a surat as-Sad fi laylatil Jumu'ah. Whoever recites Surat Sad in the night of Jumu'ah, أُعْطِيَ خَيْرَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ مَا لَمْ يُعْطَ أَحَدٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ إِلَّا نَبِيٌّ مُرْسَلٌ أَوْ مَلَكٌ مُقَرَّبٌ. It's very powerful. Whoever recites Surat Sad in the night of Jumu'ah, he or she would be given good of dunya and good of akhirah, that much that no one has been given except a prophet who has been sent by Allah or an angel who is brought near by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabiyyun mursal means a prophet which is sent by Allah, dispatched by Allah, or malakun muqarrab, an angel that Allah has brought him near. Is one of the muqarrabin. So only such people may get that much of khairud dunya wal akhirah. Otherwise no one gets more than this person or even equal to this person. And hadith continues, وَأَدْخَلَهُ اللَّهُ الْجَنَّةِ, and Allah would make him enter heaven, and not only him, وَكُلَّ مَنْ أَحَبَّ مِنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِهِ, and Allah will make every person that is loved by this reciter to heaven. Any member of his household, Ahl Baytihi, father, mother, wife, husband, children. Hatta khadimihi, not only relatives, household, even if he has a servant, if he has a caretaker, that also can go with him to heaven. حتى خادمه الذي يخدمه وإن لم يكن في حد عياله, even if this khadim is not like one of those who are his family members or is not included in the household as a family member. So he's not in their level, وَلَا فِي حَدِّ مَنْ يَشْفَعُ فِيهِ, and he's not in a level that he does shafa'ah for them. Because shafa'ah needs qualities on the side of shafi' and also on the side of mushaffa'illah. The one who intercedes and the one for whom intercession is done, both of them needs to be qualified. So, even if this person is not qualified for receiving shafa'ah because was loved by this person and or served this person, helped this person, can go to heaven with him. This is the power of recitation of Surat Sad in the night of Jumu'ah. Of course, for muttaqin. إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. If we manage to perform our wajibat, if we manage to avoid sins, ghaiba, etc., then even recitation of salawat, recitation of one surah can make us so much elevated. Recitation, ziyarah, I have explained somewhere, that, for example, we say, as Imam Raza alayhi salam said in hadith, Man زار معرفة من زار عمتي بقوم فله الجنة or وجبت له الجنة, something like this. Whoever recites my aunt in Qum, Jannah is necessary for him. This is for whom? This is for the people who are muttaqi. This is for the people who have no minus credit. As I mentioned normally this example, I say, sometimes, for example, we say to a person that, I give you this much money to buy a house. You're a nice person, you have family, you need a house, I give you this much money, which is enough to buy a house. So after some time we see he's still not in the possession of house. Say, what happened? He says, I had lots of debts. I just managed to clear some of my debts. So what we gave was enough to buy a house, provided that he had no debts. He was just zero, but he was minus. So we shouldn't think that everyone, by reciting, for example, Surah Sad in the Laylat al-Jum'ah, can reach this point. But we should not be also surprised that if a muttaqi does this, Allah would give him such treatment. For pious people, lots of opportunities, generous, gracious offers and opportunities are there. I hope, inshallah, Allah gives us tawfiq to recite Surah Sad, inshallah, in the nights of Jum'ah, bi'idhnillah, especially after knowing this beautiful hadith. And inshallah, maybe we have also some idea, some news for you, inshallah, soon, bi'idhnillah, with your du'as. Then he says, چون سالک به توفیق الهی این مراحل را طی نمود و به این مشاهدات کامیاب گردید، جذبات الهی او را احاطه نموده. If after Allah's assistance the wayfarer came all the way through these stages and have all these witnessings, then he would be receiving lots of jazabat, lots of attractions. In Isharat we had this jazabat. He would be actually surrounded with divine attractions, divine radiations that attract him. And he would be taken to the stage of fana, real fana, self-annihilation. And he would be totally taken to encounter with beauty, which is absolute, perfection, which is absolute. And he would be totally disappearing, to the extent that he says هستی خود و غیر خود را آتش زده. It's as if he has burnt his own existence and existence of anything. This fire burns everything and only Allah remains. در برابر طلعت نازنین یار چیزی نخواهد دید. In the encounter that we has with the beautiful and most attractive face of his beloved, then he cannot see anything else. When you look at the sun, you cannot see anything else. Even hardly you can see the sun itself, let alone seeing the sun and other things. If you are very, very strong, maybe you can just see the sun. But definitely no one can see the sun and other things. كان الله ولم يكن معه شيء. It was Allah and nothing was with him. But it is important that this is not an old situation which finished. This kana, although it's like past tense, kana yakunu, it's past tense, kana, like dhahaba, ja'a, qala. But ulama say kana many times means thubut. Kana Allah wa lam yakun ma'ahu shay, wal an kama kan. Still is the same. Nothing is ma'ahu. If I am very low, I can see many things. If I go a little higher, I can maybe with one eye, for example, see God, and with one eye other things. But if you go very high and you just look at Allah, you cannot see anything next to Allah. Yes, later you can see others under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is wahdat fi ayn al-kathra, but not wahda wal kathra in the same level. You cannot have Allah and other things ma'ahu. Allah is with everything, huwa ma'akum, but nothing is ma'allah, as we said in discussion about qurb. The maximum is ladallah or indallah. در این حال سالک از وادی هجران بیرون رفته. Hijran is something you find a lot in mystical literature. In many poems you find the wayfarer complaining about Hijran. Hijran means to be far, to be away, to be separated from beloved. It's very difficult, very painful to be separated from beloved. But at this stage, then wayfarer has passed the stage of Hijran. Now he is close to his beloved. و در دریای لایتناهی مشاهده ذات ربوبی مستغرق خواهد کرد. He would be drowned and sinking into unlimited ocean of witnessing essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you have such encounter with God, you cannot complain that I am far from him. Actually, you don't see yourself so that you can say I am far from God or God is far from me. It's only him and him. Then he says it should be noted that this would not conflict with existence of the world or our existence in the world or having lots of things around us. This multiplicity would remain, but سالک در عین کثرت در وحدت است. At the same time that Salik is in this world, which is the world of multiplicity or multiplicities, he is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says some of these mystics have said مدت 30 سال در میان مردم بودم. For 30 years I lived with people and among people, and they thought I am dealing with them. They thought I am interacting with them. They thought I am talking and listening to them. گمان می کردند که من با ایشان مراوده دارم. I'm coming and going to visit them. با ایشان معاشرم. I am living with them. و حال آن که در این مدت من به جز خدا کسی را ندیده و نشناختم. But the reality is that in all these 30 years I didn't see and I didn't know anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was talking to him, I was listening to him, I was interacting with him. If you remember in the discussion about outcomes of a spiritual journey, we had this hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when a person gets close to me, then I would disclose to him the knowledge about my creation or the select of my creation. La ukhfi alayh khassat khalqi or ilm khassat khalqi. And then Allah says, I also would whisper to him, أناجيه في ظلم الليل ونور النهار. I whispered to him in the light of the day and darkness of the night. حتى ينقطع حديثه مع المخلوقين, to the extent that his conversation with creatures stop. وأعرفه السر الذي سترته عن ملائكتي. And I would make the secret that I have covered even from my angels known to him. Interpreting this sentence, I normally give two interpretations. حتى ينقطع حديثه مع المخلوقين. One is to say that this person is so much attracted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah is so much dear to him that he would have no appetite, no desire for talking to people. Just keeps it to the minimum, to the necessity. He doesn't talk to people. This is one interpretation, which doesn't mean literally he stops talking, but means it's kept to the minimum. But another interpretation is that no, he may actually talk, even maybe sometime more than minimum, but when he's talking to people, he is not talking to people as such. He's talking to God. And when he's listening to God. They are able to be always tuned to God. And even from what comes from the mouth of people, they get message from God. So this is another interpretation that we mentioned when we talk about that hadith. So this person says, I lived with people for 30 years and they thought I am just like any other person, talking to them, dealing with them, coming and going, visiting them, etc. But I didn't see anyone, I didn't talk to anyone other than God. Then he says, this condition is very important, and as a result, in the beginning, it may happen only momentarily. در یک لحظه, just for a moment. But little by little, it becomes more. It can take 10 minutes and last for 10 minutes or more. Then it can reach 1 hour or more. But with Allah's grace, it can become maqam. It can become permanent. In our hadith and in the words of scholars, urafa, they call this hal. Hal is a situation which is transient, and of course it should reach maqam, which is permanent. They call this hal baqa'ib ma'bud, means to live in God, to remain and endure bil ma'bud, because of your ma'bud. Ma'bud is the one who is worshipped, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you, as a person, as a human being, with all the limitations, stop, but you, as a manifestation of God, as a creature of God, continue forever. You become Wajhullah and you would not survive, you would not expire, you would survive. این مرتبه از کمال نتوان، به این مرتبه از کمال نتوان رسید مگر پس از حصول فناء کلی از هستی موجودات در ذات حضرت احدیت. It's not possible to reach this level of perfection unless after complete fana of all موجودات, all beings should be removed. This is not just self-annihilation, it's annihilation of everything in the essence of God. Everything disappears in the essence of God. در این حال سالک چیزی را نمی بیند مگر ذات قدس الهی. In this condition, the wayfarer would not see anything other than divine essence. And here, sometimes problems can happen, of course. This person has reached this point that he would not see anything other than God, and then he may say something that other people misunderstand. For example, he would say, God is here, and he points at himself, or God is in my clothes. لَيْسَ فِي جُبَّتِي إِلَّا اللَّهِ. In my clothes there is no one other than God. And people say, oh, these people have become mushrik. They are claiming that they are God. But they don't mean that they as a human being, they are God. Yes, if you say a human being God is a problem. But if you say that God is present everywhere, and I can see him everywhere, I can see him in nature, I can see him in the sky, I can see in the stars, and I can see him in myself, I can see in other people, this is not shirk. But of course, people who reach this point, if they have good teachers, they would tell them to keep silent, not to say anything that can be misunderstood, not to say what we call shatahiyat, because it can confuse people. And this is why Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and our great scholars, they don't say such things. Very, very rarely, maybe for teaching purposes, these are mentioned, but this is not at all a common way of talking, or even something that easily available for people. They are very careful about the way they speak. He says, one of the majzubin, those who had jazb, they were attracted, they experienced jazb of Allah, his name was Baba Farajullah. Baba Faraj Majzub, even the Majzub became his title, laqab. He was one of the mystics of the city of Tabriz, northwestern Iran, in Azerbaijan Sharqi, eastern Azerbaijan province. The center capital is Tabriz. Allamah Tabataba'i was from there, Ayatollah Qazi Tabataba'i was from there, Ayatollah Ja'far Subhani is from Tabriz. So this Arif was asked to describe dunya. People ask him, or some of his teachers ask him, please describe dunya for us. What is dunya? He said, از آن وقت که من چشم گشودم دنیا را ندیدم تا اکنون برای شما توصیف کنم. He said, since I have opened my eyes, I have not seen dunya so that I can describe for you. I have no experience of dunya. I have only seen God. So because of the power of jadba, he had not experienced dunya. Because as you know, dunya is not these things that are there. These are not dunya. Dunya is a way of looking at them. Dunya is to look at them as independent from God. Dunya is to look at them as ends, not means. He had never looked at them in this way. So he had never seen dunya. In the footnote, he says that this poem is attributed to him. که فرج تا که دیده بگشاده است، چشم او بر جهان نیفتاده است. Faraj is his name because Baba Faraj. Since Faraj has opened his eyes have not been fixed at dunya, have not seen dunya. Hafiz, great poet, he also says, منم که شهره شهرم به عشق ورزیدن. I am the one who is notoriously known for love. Means I have a reputation of being a lover. Everyone knows I have fallen in love. منم که دیده نیالوده ام به بد دیدن. I have not polluted my eyes with seeing bad things. I have only seen the beloved. I have not seen anything else. Also, Ibn Farid, who is similar, to Hafiz in Arabic, he has lots of mystical, and it is said that he made actually composed this couplet in sleeping. حياة أشواقي وحياة أشواقي إليك وتربة الصبر الجميل ما استحسنت عيني سواك ولا صبوت إلى خليلي. It seems that this is wawul qasam because it says وحياة أشواقي. It come after waw qasam becomes majroor. By the life of my yearnings for you and by the soil of beautiful patience, my eyes have not found anything beautiful other than you. مستحسنت عيني سواك. So nothing other than you have been found hasan by my eye. Istahsana means wajadahu hasana. Wala sabawtu ila khalili. And I have not longed for any friend other than you. So this is reflected in Hafiz, in Ibn Farid, in Baba Faraj poems. This witness first is hal, and when it is hal, it comes and goes and you don't have control. It's غير اختياري, means you cannot bring it whenever you want it. It's not voluntary. But with a strong muraqabah, Allah helps, and this hal becomes maqam. It becomes a station, established condition, and therefore whenever you want, you have it. It's not something that sometimes comes and sometimes goes, and sometimes you force yourself to have it, you would not have it. And then he says that it is obvious, self-evident, that a strong wayfarer is the one that at the same time that he is witnessing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so vividly and powerfully, he is also attentive to the world of multiplicities. So he can do justice to both, as we said last week. This is Salik Qavi, a strong, experienced, mature wayfarer, can do justice to both. Like prophets, like imams, like some urafa who are really able to do justice to both. هر دو عالم را اداره نماید. They can manage both worlds. و این مرتبه بسیار عالی و رفیع است و دسترسی به آن در نهایت صعوبت. This level is بسیار عالی. It's very high and it's very difficult to reach this. It's not easy. و شاید اختصاص به انبیا و اولیا و هر کس را که خدا بخواهد داشته باشد. Maybe it is for prophets and awliyaullah, the friends of God, and anyone that Allah wants. It's not very common. Of course, we would say later that it's not exclusive to the prophets, because awliyaullah are not always prophets. We have prophets who are awliyaullah and we have awliyaullah who are not prophets. But anyway, you have to reach that high level so that you can do justice to the both worlds. And at the same time that they may say, as we have from the Prophet, لي مع الله حالات لا يسعها ملك مقرب. I have some conditions with God that even angels who are close to God cannot come to that point. They cannot come that far. But the same prophet or the same prophets, they would say, أنا بشر مثلكم. I am a human being like you. I eat, I drink, I walk, I become ill, I marry, I have neighbors, I work as a shepherd. For example, many prophets worked as shepherds, to the extent that hadith says, ما بعث الله نبيا إلا واسترعاه الغنم. It was very common, maybe almost all or really all. So these have both sides. And then he says, if someone says that it's only for prophets and imams and no one else can reach this, we would say no. It's not only for the prophets and imams. Other human beings also can reach this position. Inshallah, we will talk about this in the next session. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send his salutations to all the prophets and all his awliya, all our scholars, and in particular Allamah Tabataba'i rahmatullah alayh. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us also to go to this journey with determination and persistence, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.